Differences between capitalism, democratic socialism, authoritarian socialism, and communism. A lot of people will get confused with the differences between communism and authoritarian socialism, so please make sure you listen, pay attention, and use these answers and use these things on any test or any questions, because a lot of people get them confused. Now, when I'm comparing these systems, I'm going to be looking at prices, who sets the prices. I'm going to be looking at who owns the property. About competition, I'm going to be looking at the government, size of the government. I'm going to be looking at the profit motive and the three basic questions, who answers those questions. And then I'll be looking at advantages and disadvantages of each system so you can have an idea on each one how they work. So we're going to start with capitalism, and we're going to look through and go down each one. We're going to look at prices, we're going to look at property, competition, profit motive, government, three basic questions, advantages and disadvantages. So in a capitalist society, a capitalist system, prices are set by people. Okay? Now you can say people in companies, but I'm going to say people are the companies. There's not any large corporations, there's not any large things. So in capitalism, there's lots of small companies owned by mom and pop places. The one role of the government is to break up monopolies, break up companies. I'm just going to say people answer the three basic questions, and that can be on the business side or the people side. Property, who owns the property? That would be people. And of course you just realize that could also be companies, but companies are run by the people. People own all of this, so people have the property and it's private property. Competition, in this system there would be tons of competition. There would be millions of buyers, millions of sellers. There wouldn't be any menus. There would be basically people bargaining, hassling, going over prices. There wouldn't be any set prices. So there's lots and lots and lots of competition. The government, in this case, it is very limited government, so it is very small in that it doesn't get involved in the economy except for to enforce property rights, to settle disputes, to break up monopolies, and to protect people. So protect people from invasion, protect people from crime, and to settle disputes. So there's very little government in capitalism. The profit motive, so there is a profit motive that is with the people have the incentive to make profit. So there is lots of big profit motive, and it goes to the people. It's their incentive to make money. Who answers the three basic economic questions: what to produce, how to produce, and for whom to produce? It is the people. And then we have, those are like the characteristics of capitalism. There is voluntary exchange between people. People aren't forced to buy and sell things. There's economic freedom, so people can choose what career they're going to be in. People can choose what to buy, those kind of things. So there's a lot more characteristics, but I picked these. And then some advantages of this system is there is high income, high standard of living. So high standard of living. There's high efficiency. So there's not a lot of waste, maximized resources, not a lot of shortages, overages. So there's high efficiency, high standard of living, high income, lots of products and choices. Lots of innovation, so innovation in that. Disadvantages, there's no public goods. So there would be no roads, no schools, no parks, because they would, if they couldn't be made by business, you wouldn't do them. So there wouldn't be any public goods. So some other ones could be large gap, poor and rich, not all participate. You have to have money to participate, so not everybody participates. There's a large gap between the rich and the poor. There's no public goods, like I said. And you might even have some social problems, or you might have some externalities like pollution. Externality is an unintended consequence of an action. So you might have pollution, air pollution, water pollution, and so on with capitalism that you'd not have in other systems. So the next one I'm going to go to, I'm going to skip democratic socialism. I'm going to go to authoritarian socialism. I'm going to look at who sets the prices in authoritarian socialism, and that would be the government. The government is a command economy. It's a command system, so the government sets the prices. Who owns the property in authoritarian socialism? That would be the government owns the property. So there is no private property. There's nothing that people own. It's just the government. Competition in this case, there is little, no competition. Most of them are monopolies owned by the government, so there is no competition. Government is huge, tremendous, large, huge bureaucracy, very big, the biggest that you can have. Profit, who makes the profit in the system? The government does. So government takes the risk, government makes the profit. Somebody who answers the three basic questions, the government would answer the three basic questions. And then you're looking at advantages of this system. It adapts quickly, or changes quickly might be better. So you can go from a manufacturing economy to an agricultural economy. You can make weapons. It basically says, okay, we've got this problem, let's fix it and let's go into there. So that you have a 5-year plan, 10-year plan. You can move resources wherever you want to. I always like to say there's no thinking. So for the people, they don't have to decide where they want to live. They don't have to decide where they want to work. They take a test. They go through these tests throughout their life, and they say, okay, you're going to be an athlete, you're going to work in science, you're going to work here. They decide where you live, where you work, the job. So it's all taken care of. So there's no there. Also, there's no unemployment. One of the main things when the Soviet Union was around, they basically bragged that, you know, United States has got 5, 6, 8% unemployment. We don't have any unemployment. And then the ups and downs, the changes in the economy. So there's no ups and downs. Because in a capitalist economy, you have recessions, you have business cycle, and the government regulates this and kind of controls wages, controls prices, so they don't have this uncertainty. Some disadvantages, there are shortages. So you have shortages, you have overages, you have poor products. So you have overages, shortages. You might not have bread and cereal, but you might have too much of leather, rubber bands, staples. Poor products, the quality is very poor. In this kind of system, there's no incentive to do good work. People are a lot of times alcoholics. They're not efficient. It's just a system where there's low income, there's low standard of living, there's poor quality, there's, you know, prices are just there. So you could have high prices. It's hard to tell comparing because you don't have the market going. Okay, so that's authoritarian socialism. So that is the opposite of capitalism. And then you have democratic socialism, which is in the middle. And obviously it's going to have both of these. So we're going to look at these, and it's going to be people and government basically set the prices. In some markets it's people, in some markets it's government. So the government might control important things. Who owns the property? People and government. So government might own the airways, but government might own the nuclear power plants, but people own the car dealerships in their houses. Competition, there is some. Competition in the government sector, none or very little. Competition in the private sector, you have more. Government is large. So you have a large government, maybe large going on this direction, but there's big bureaucracy. They run businesses, they run industries, they have regulations, and they do that. Profit motive, people and government both make profit. So you have people and government doing both. Who answers the three basic questions? People and government. So people, government. Advantages in this system is equal pay, happiness. A lot of these are Scandinavian countries that are seen very happy. Big safety net. Things are, quote, free. So free education, free retirement, free things. There's not a lot that the people have to do. They pay it in their taxes, but they don't pay extra for it. Some disadvantages: it's less efficient, less income, less wages. People in these countries may make 20 to 25,000. Where in the United States we make 40 to 45,000 on average. They have more vacation time, they have more time off, they have more family time, but there's less income, less standard of living, smaller houses. They don't work on Saturdays in many cases, they don't work on Sundays. So that's where they might get their happiness. The equal pay in Sweden, they actually want their richest to the rich to make 2 or 3 times more than the poor. So they have this gap going down. So they believe in more equal pay. They believe in distributing income. The safety net, people are taken care of. They might have high unemployment, but they're taken care of with welfare and Social Security and different types of programs that they have. So those are the 3 big ones. You have capitalism, democratic socialism, and authoritarian socialism. So you might have, capitalism is like an example is Hong Kong, maybe the US in the 1800s. Democratic socialism is the US now, but more it's Europe, Canada, Australia, England, France. We're not there yet, where we're getting closer. Authoritarian socialism used to be the Soviet Union. It might be North Korea and Cuba today, but both of those are mixed economies and both of those are moving around. So the last one that we're going to have is we're going to have communism, and that's very different. So communism, there are no prices. None. There is no property. So there is no government property, no people-owned property. It's shared. And when I say there's no prices, there's no wages, there's no money, there's no nothing. So it can't be equal wages. They don't get paid. Competition, there is none. Government, in the truest of the sense, with Karl Marx's ideas, there is no government. So there's no government, there's no class system, there's no money, there's no wages, there's no profit motive. The motive is basically helping each other out, working for the better of society, but there's no profit motive. Who answers the 3 basic questions: what to produce, how to produce, for whom to produce? People do. And it's normally unanimous. Normally people decide what they need to do that day. Oh, we need to build a house for Marco, so we build Marco a house. We need to do a car for Jasmine, so we do that. So we look at what needs to be done that day, and then we go ahead and do it. So profit motive, none. 3 basic questions are people. Advantages of this system: there's a lot of freedom, no crime, no conflict. Karl Marx came up with this and said most wars are started by religion and by money, so he took care of those 2 things, so there'd be less crime. Now you would have some, but you wouldn't have stealing because you can't steal from yourself. You might have a crime of passion, but you wouldn't have crime over money, or you wouldn't have worry about that. So there's complete freedom to do whatever you want to do, whatever you need to do. It's stable. You have good quality, good things. They're made one at a time, not manufacturing. Negative parts: there is no actual standard of living. There's no income. It's hard to trade when you don't have any money. You might be prone to wars because there is no military, there is no government, so you might be attacked. So it's a very different system with no money, no wages, no prices. So what most people think is communism is really authoritarian socialism, and that hasn't happened yet. These groups believed in communism, but they never went to the 4th step. They did there was a large gap between the rich and the poor. There was a revolution of the workers. The workers took over, but then the workers didn't give up power, and there wasn't this transformation that is this real communism where there's no class system, there's no government, there's no prices, there's no wages, and that hasn't happened. So this is theoretical, and a lot of you might think that even capitalism is theoretical because it really hasn't happened. You don't see a lot of it. It's not pure. Where we see that. We see mostly democratic socialism and authoritarian socialism. So hopefully this makes sense, and if you have any questions, post. I know my writing on the back is hard to read because my writing's bad on the board anyhow, but if you have any questions, ask in class, and I hope it's clear, and thanks a lot. Have a good day now. Bye-bye.